Pull up, grab the fuel nozzle, and get ready to fuel up on trends and strategies to grow your travel center business in this episode of The Truck Stops Here, brought to you by NATSO. Now, here are your hosts, Amy Toner and Darren Schulte.
Hello. Welcome to today's episode of The Truck Stops Here. I'm your host, Amy Toner, and I'm here with my co-host, Darren Schulte. Hi, Darren.
Hi, Amy. How are you today?
I'm good. Thanks for tuning in to NATSO's podcast, The Truck Stops Here. Today, Darren and I are going to talk about ways to get customers to come in from the fuel island. We've been talking in the NATSO office about how over the summer, there's probably going to be a lot more car traffic. There's going to be a lot of people who are stopping because they have to fuel, and we want to get them inside. So, Darren, tell us some of the ways that you can get people to come inside from the fuel islands.
So yes, Amy, thanks. Let's first talk about the truck drivers and that portion of the fuel island, and then we'll circle back to the forecourt with the gasoline islands and those customers. So for the truck drivers, for most of our members, the professional driver does come inside the store. But as we've said on previous podcast blogs and, in training sessions like at the show, there's a big difference from the customer coming into the professional driver specifically coming inside the store to pay for his or her fuel and actually buying something within a store. So when we're, pre-COVID-19, when we were in the stores, we saw a very large percentage of the drivers that would come in, pay for their fuel, go to the restroom, and then just leave. And that's, I think, going to be made significantly worse, for lack of better words, in the current environment if you're not, again, inviting for that customer. So while things such as there's been a little bit of loosening on the electronic logging devices, so drivers have a little bit more time to deliver products that are essential to our industry, there's still that issue of speed. So for the professional driver who comes into, again, your location, I still believe you've got to figure out ways to bring the store to him and her. I just think if that's not a priority going forward, I just believe those organizations are going to be left behind. So I think emphasis really has to be put on ordering systems at the pump. There has to be energy placed into apps so people can order ahead of time or order while they're fueling, something to cut into that wait time. And then I think when, if anyone's building a new store and if professional drivers are really, truly their key component, if that's their, they want that to be their focus, then the store has to be laid out for that customer. I just think, the old ways of expecting the driver to come into the store, wander around when he or she are on a very tight timeline is just a long-term it's a disaster, in my opinion. It's just a long-term approach for a disaster. What I mean by that is it doesn't mean you won't do business. It doesn't mean that you won't have some success. I just don't believe you'll be able to maximize your success. So the other piece of that is for the drivers that pull up, make sure your signage is correct. Make sure you have proper signage. We talk about signage, until we're blue in the face. But I think it's critical to have the proper signage. Take a look at how welcoming the building is. I've talked about this in previous podcasts and previous blogs and so forth. Same thing is, what kind of message are you telling that professional driver? Are you welcoming him or her into your building? I just can't emphasize that enough. And again, as they walk in, what are you doing? If you know that the three main reasons a truck driver pulls over is food, fuel, and he or she has to have something to eat, why wouldn't you make that a priority for that customer? So that's for the fuel island, and that's kind of a long-winded thing, but I think, it first starts with proper signage, welcoming them, looking at apps, looking at ways to get the food out to him. Because strangely enough, as I really believe, is the more ways we focus on trying to get product to them when they're at the fuel island, the more likely they are going to come into the store and buy more stuff, because that piece of the puzzle for them will already be eliminated. So I think it'll free up more time for them to do some different things than they currently do today. So for the car customers, Same type of thing. So they're driving down the road. Everything I'm reading and I'm hearing is that car customers there's going to be significantly more car customers for our industry. Anecdotally, I can say, like in El Paso, I've never seen so many cars with new tags. So either they new cars or used vehicles. And everything I'm hearing is, again, people are not going to get on buses, not going to get on trains, not going to get in an Uber, or, they're going to prefer, especially some elderly people are going to prefer the safety of their own vehicle. So again, I haven't seen any data yet to prove that, those types of car sales are way up, but at least anecdotally, it surprises me in El Paso how many vehicles, again, used or new, tags I see. It's shocking. So that being said, if all the data is accurate that folks are going to be in the road, there's going to be a lot of customers that may have never stopped at your particular travel center because maybe they used to take the train or the bus, or they were airplane. Now they're in a car. So it starts with, proper ads or messaging on your billboards. We've talked about that, the blue DOT signs, the monument signs outside on the city streets or the state highway, the high rise, letting customers know that you're opening. Then when they pull up, do you have, digital signage on the outside? If you do, are you utilizing that properly to drive them inside? Do you have snap blocks? Do you have, signage? Do you have pump toppers? And a lot of that stuff also relates to the professional driver. But are you doing the messaging? And then again, I do think even for that type of customer, many of our members, even though they didn't have a lot of gas, were taking out food or products to those customers. They were trying to get stuff to that four-wheel customer. I would say, again, if you've started that plan, if you already are doing that, I think you should continue that. I think there are ways, some families will gas up and they might want to go inside and buy something, but they're scared. They maybe don't want to walk, wait in line. So having large restrooms, letting customers know you have large restrooms, letting customers know that your store is uncluttered. It's easy to get in and out of your store now, and they're not going to be snug up against one another. Again, they can't necessarily see that from the outside, but I think the outside appearance, messaging, and those types of things will lead customers to feel comfortable with your store. If your pumps are super clean and your squeegees are clean and the outside appearance is really neat and clean, I think a gasoline customer, he or she will feel comfortable that what's represented outside of the building is now represented inside of the building, and they'll go inside. And then once in, again, I think people are going to be in more of a rush than ever before. I know we've done lots of reviews at stores, and of course, it's only over a very short period of time. But the conversion rates on the gasoline customers are very, very, very low, significantly lower than in a convenience store. So we already have very low conversion rates, and that's again from a customer fueling, then coming inside and actually physically buying something. So if it's already low, even pre-COVID-19, it's going to have to be more focused again to try to drive that number. So where's your food located? How easy it is for them to get their coffee and their fountain? How easy it is to get to the cooler? Whatever are the key driving points of your particular location, how easy are you making that for that period, that type of customer? So let's say you were a really big beer store in the past, but your beer sales are beginning to go back to pre-COVID-19, right? So you're not really doing very well on beer anymore. Is there a way to get beer out in front to remind customers, hey, we've got beer, even though COVID-19 is kind of slowing down, hopefully, but we've got beer. Is there ways to let customers know that? Again, for the food, maybe
they could do the salad. Go ahead, Darren.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say they could do the salad bar full of beer that we saw that one grocery store doing.
Absolutely. So like here in Texas, in parts of Texas, you're able to put out those types of troughs full of beer. And there's a lot of states that allow people to do that. You can put singles, cold and ice. Some states don't allow that, but there's a lot that do that. And is that the perfect opportunity to get someone on their way home from work, especially if you're in an industrial area? Maybe that's a great idea for that type of customer who stops with you to get some fuel. He or she doesn't buy beer from you, but there's an opportunity because now there's a trough full of cold single beers for that person. Again, I'm not suggesting by any means drinking and driving or anything like that, but maybe there's an opportunity. He'll grab a cold one and take it home, and now he'll have a fresh cold beer when he's sitting down. So there might be an opportunity for that.
I was thinking, if people are traveling, at least a lot of people I know are still going on vacation, but they're just going somewhere and staying, right? So if you offered things that they were, that they could get and then bring with them, it'd be a new opportunity to, sell something, like a craft beer, or you're sort of just like scavenging very fast now, right? So, but if you see something that you need for your vacation, then you would certainly buy it because you see it.
I think you're spot on, Amy. So big retail is already pivoting at this point to change to customer demand and customer behavior, shopping differences. So let's take a travel center next to a national park that's got a great lake on it. If they're not selling tubes today or floaties, maybe they should. Let's skip to later in the year when people are going to cabins for the winter. If you're not potentially selling some sleds today, maybe that's a mistake. So I do think that retailers, specifically our travel centers, are going to have to pivot and take a look at their current products that they're offering and really understand, are they going to get a lot of new different type of customers who are going to be in RVs or are going to be traveling versus flying a plane? And if they are, can they pivot quickly? That may not be the same customer that wants to buy a little gadget, a little souvenir. This may be a totally different type of customer that, as you referenced, wants to get something to take to the cabin. So they want to get a craft beer, or again, they want to go sledding, or maybe they want to get a tent for the kids that they forgot to get at the local Walmart. So they want to grab a tent or a hammock or something like that to bring up to the lake or to bring to their cabin. So I would say that for our independent operators specifically, there's a great opportunity to take advantage of what I'm going to call some of these ancillary retail purchases. And I already see it happening. I have a brother-in-law who's going to be going out with his nieces and nephews and his grandchildren in his RV. And this, the stuff that they're buying today, they never bought when they were flying on a plane. Right. They would just, get to their destination and do whatever they're going to do. In this case, they're buying that type of stuff because, as he referenced, I may stop at, 2 or 3 rivers and go tubing, or we may stop at 2 or 3 lakes on the way that we're driving. So I'm going to need this stuff now versus getting it when I get there. So it's interesting.
Mm-hmm. You and I were just talking about how it's a good time to be a good listener, right? So have your cashiers write down what people are asking, because there are probably things that you don't offer and you've never thought about offering.
I think that's another awesome idea.
Yeah, I think listening is so important. Okay, so what are the things people might see from the fuel island that might deter them from coming in?
So both forecourt and the backcourt, so the diesel customer and the car customer. Let's talk about old ratty signs. Let's talk about dead flowers. Let's talk about poor curb appeal. Let's talk about overflowing trash cans. Let's talk about dirty squeegees. And I'm sure our listeners may think, oh, that's just common sense stuff. Well, prior to COVID-19, that may or may not have had a serious negative impact on your business. Those are fundamentals. We should already be doing all those. I can definitely tell you that current situation, if you're failing in any of those or any of the fundamentals, what I just referenced and then any of the other fundamentals, I think you're dead in the water as far as getting customers to come inside your store. I can just think of myself when I'm with my grandkids. If I pull up to an operation that's got
ratty signs and, handwritten signs all over the place on the front door. They don't look welcoming for me. We may go in there, rush inside, go in there and use the restroom, but it's highly unlikely we're going to spend quality time in there and buy a lot of stuff. And as you know, not only during our reviews, but also the study that Coke did a few years back on the travel store industry, we have incredibly low conversion rates, both on the diesel side and the gasoline side. And what's really shocking about that, and when we do these reviews, or if people have seen that Coke survey, is they say, well, the drivers come inside. And the fact that we have such low conversion rates when our customers already walk into our stores, and this was pre-COVID-19, again, if you're not paying attention to that, I think you're going to be in terrible, terrible shape. So what are things you could do? So we talked about signage, making sure your billboards are welcoming. There's signage in the front. What about putting flowers out? What about putting some merchandise maybe that you normally didn't put outside? That's not, again, I'm sure members are worried about theft and so forth, but put some products out there that welcome those customers. In Europe, they do a lot of flowers. They put flowers right in the front for retail selling, and it makes a nice statement. So everybody loves flowers. So get the flower pots out, get the trees out, get the plants out, and think about doing retail. That's just one of many, but I would say that's probably one inexpensive thing that you can do. And of course, it's not free. I understand that, but something inexpensive to welcome people. One of the things we talked about once before was what's wrong with rolling out a red carpet. We put floor mats in front of our doors during the wintertime, or, the stop from slips and falls. I can imagine someone taking maybe a parking space in the front and rolling out a nice red carpet and lining both sides of that with flowers pots. How welcoming would that be?
Yep. Great ideas. All right. Well, thanks, Darren.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of The Truck Stops Here. You can find us online at natso.com/podcast. You can also find us on Apple, Google, Stitcher, and Spotify. If you have any questions, we hope you'll reach out to editor@natso.com. Bye-bye.
The Truck Stops Here was brought to you by NATSO, the association representing truck stops and travel centers. Visit natso.com for more information. The Truck Stops Here is produced by NATSO in collaboration with Human Factor. Producers are Amy Toner and Darren Schulte.